to go through. And the idea would be to try and get you fully confident in terms of, obviously studying the course with us. And by the end of the induction, you would be able to, obviously get full knowledge and background about, who we are, who are the staff who are involved in the teaching and learning, where would you get in touch should you have any problems, or who are the persons who are going to get in touch with you and obviously be involved in teaching.
Yeah.
So we just share my screen. So this is the place where we'll obviously firm up a bit of agenda. I have one of my colleagues on with me right now, Aman. He's one of the course coordinators. So obviously he would also be in touch with you from time to time.
Hi, Michelle, you okay?
Hi, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So let's look at a couple of things. I'm going to look at giving you some systems demo. We'll be starting off with our digital campus, which is the website. Then we'll go to signpost and obviously show you the YouTube channel. I'm also going to add you to the WhatsApp group so that for urgent announcements, anything which is a pressing requirement at your end for questions and other bits, you can obviously WhatsApp us on that group, because generally availability on that would be 24/7, Sunday to Monday. You had no problems getting onto Zoom, so you don't need any subscriptions there. And obviously, at any given point in time, we will send you the links to be able to join these sessions by clicking on them. And last but not the least, the most important, what I'm going to do is show you the LMS, which is the Moodle that we use, so that you're able to access everything in terms of the teaching and learning material from there. I'm also going to be virtually introducing the team so that you're aware of who are the people in administration, who are the people in teaching, and obviously in terms of accounts, I won't cover because you paid the full piece in full, but obviously there will be sets of people which can get in touch with you from, IQA team and assessing team and registration team, which is basically informing you or giving you information about bits and pieces related to your course. Then we're going to go into a bit of a course overview. The course overview, we will discuss the units, a bit of schedule. I think some part of it in terms of discussion has happened with Jill in terms of timings in the session. And then towards the end, what I will look at is show you how the assessment and feedback process essentially works. So this feedback and this assessment process would be for assignments, because there are no exams in the qualification. So when you're studying this qualification, when you submit assignments, how do you submit assignments? So things like this would cover things like how do you submit, let's put it this way, submit assignments. Look at where to submit assignments, and whether it's graded and achieved. And then last but not the least, how do you get feedback, and obviously feedback and how do you improve and achieve the final grade, right? There would be some bits which we would want you to stay away from, things like, malpractice and the use of AI. This is something which is a hot topic right now with awarding bodies, and there's a lot of scrutiny on this side. And then any questions, any queries that remain unanswered, what I will do is basically take them up so that you, at the end of the session, are 100% confident about, reading and obviously studying the course with us. Is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds
good stuff. So just before I start, are you able to hear me okay, see the screen okay?
Yeah.
And what is the device that you're attending the induction on?
Apple.
Oh, okay. So you've got a MacBook, so that is a big enough screen. That is what I just wanted to understand, so that I have a 49-inch monitor. Being a teacher and a lecturer, you have loads of things to share and obviously show. As you can see, I have a big screen. So what I'm going to try and do is, sometimes I have learners who are attending it on a phone or a tablet. So I just try and keep my windows to 1 or 2 so that it's clear and obviously it's quite clearly legible. So what I'll do is I'll start you off with the systems demo first. And for this, let me share a new browser screen. Now, one quick thing which I want to just look at just before we go into it, because you're studying the course with us through distance learning, one of the requirements tends to be from the awarding body that how you verified, the learner. So is there a way that you can switch on your webcam for a couple of minutes and then you can switch it off later?
Yeah.
That's completely okay. That'll allow us to, just get the visual identity. And then once that is done, it'll be meeting that particular guideline. Great. Good to see you.
Hi.
So
Thanks,
let's
Michelle.
start off.
Okay.
And so what I've done is I've opened up a new browser window, and let me start with the website. A lot of colleges, institutions call it a website, but we call it the digital campus because we have got lots of things on it, and you can get pretty much all the information that you need starting from here. Now, the reason of showing this website is also to request you to bookmark it for the duration that you're going to be studying with us, so that if you need to get in touch with us, and if you need any information related to your course, you'll be able to get that to a certain extent from the website. So how would I bookmark this? Just click on the circle and the 2 lines and bring it to your bookmark bar, which means that you'll be able to get access to it at a click of a button. Now, when you look at the website on the homepage, just below the banner is this violet banner, which basically has the key bits in terms of how do you get in touch with us. So there are 3 ways that you can get in touch with us. One is email, the other is phone, and the third is WhatsApp, which has become a part and parcel of our lives today in terms of communication. So if you have any requirements, anything that you think you need or you haven't got an answer for, then the best email to send it to is admin. It's a monitored mailbox. 3-4 people access it. You would be able to get a response pretty much in a couple of minutes when you send an email. Then we have the phone, which is the college switchboard, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. If you need to speak to somebody human, get to see somebody or hear somebody on the phone, then that's the best way to get in touch with us. It's called the landlines. We are all based in Manchester, so we should be able to respond to you and obviously get to help you in any query that you have. The third one is the WhatsApp. This is because social media is a part of our lives nowadays. So essentially, sometimes I have colleagues, even my kids, sometimes, when they're in their rooms, they'll text me rather than calling me because WhatsApp is so synonymous with communication. So what we will do is add you to a group, which will be a accounting group specifically for this course. And this group, we have learners joining in, learners finishing, and they exit the group. This group will have the coordinators, the moderators, the lecturers on this. So if you have any pressing requirements, any questions, whether a good question, ugly question, stupid question, whatever it is, and sometimes we place urgent announcements related to, say, meeting codes or session invites and things like that. So you'll be able to message and you get probably an instant response on that. So 3 ways to get in touch, and that's the reason why showing you the website to begin with. Now, the second bit, which I also want to do, is virtually introduce the team, although you'll get to see some of the lecturers on some of the sessions, but just looking at under the About Us section, operations, and you'll be able to see all the staff which works at UK Versity. Now, this is very unlike other colleges or universities. You probably need to find pages and go in, and in 90% of the cases with private colleges, they don't put anything on so that you're not able to see anybody human. So in our case, it's otherwise, it's very different. We are one of the 32 private colleges accredited with the British Accreditation Council in the UK. That is something which differentiates us from any other provider that you would have chosen to do the course, because we go through quality checks, and obviously as an established educational institution, although private, but we are an established institution which undergoes inspections, quality checks once every year, and that ensures that the education that you're going to get is quality, is going to be regulated, it's going to lead to progression, the qualifications are on UCAS, and it should allow you to progress or study anything else in the future with us or with any other institution like a university in the UK. Now, that's me here. One of my colleagues, Amrita, she looks after your registration. So she's done the first part, and I think you've got a confirmation. You get the enrollment letter after that. And then towards the end, she would concentrate and obviously, collate your assessments to be able to release final certification. One of my colleagues, Open, he's obviously the financial controller. Along with him, one of his colleagues, Heta, she looks after accounts, although, as I mentioned, you won't be probably getting any calls or any emails from them, but just to know them, because they are also a part of our team. Now, the key set of people that you're going to be looking at is this 6 in the administration. We've got David Law, which is a chatbot that we've created, and we've trained the chatbot on about 1 million lines of our website code. So it is able to give you information in out of hours should you have a pressing question and you're not able to get in touch with any one of us, either through WhatsApp, email, or phone. Now, Jill, she's the course coordinator. She normally looks after scheduling sessions that you would attend for each of the units, and she would be the person which liaisons between you and the tutor so that you're able to have tutorials and you're able to move along in terms of your studies with attending live sessions. Gertha, my colleague, she's a student support administrator or a pastoral officer. She looks after journal support and obviously would be in touch with you on the phone once in a fortnight to check on your progress, to see how you're going in the course, what are the things that you're enjoying, what are the things you're not enjoying. And then if you discuss anything with her, she then picks up that feedback and then relays it internally within the team. And she would essentially pick up the problem and then help you solve that problem straight away with taking help from other colleagues within the organization. One of my colleagues, Grace, she's the Moodle administrator. She looks after marketing as well, but she would be the one who looks after the Moodle platform, and she keeps it updated. She would upload things if you need anything like a book, presentation, handout, recording of the lecture. She would provide all those things to you, and they would come automatically from the Moodle. But sometimes if you miss out on a session or you can't find anything, you can drop her an email and she would respond back to you by obviously providing that information. Aman is on the call with us today, so you're able to see in person, and is again one of the administrators which primarily is responsible for coordination and overall looks after the delivery of the course. Now, in terms of lecturers, we have Reena. She's one of the lecturers in accounting, and she obviously is also one of the lead assessors who would mark your assignments. So when you do submit assignments, if you mention on the email what grade you're trying to achieve, you'll probably get feedback from us in 2 or 3 days, but she will pick up some of the assignments for marking. Apart from that, we have 3 qualified lecturers, in fact, including myself, who's an MSc in Accounting and Finance. So there are 4 qualified lecturers which teach this particular course. And we teach also some of the modules for IFA Direct, which is the Institution of Financial Accountants. And we are a global study center for them. So a lot of people study qualifications with us, on accounting side. So you're in extremely good hands as far as knowledge is concerned, experience is concerned, and delivery of courses is concerned. So there are 6 or 7 units I think you'll cover in your accounting course. One of them would be taught, one of the lecturers teaching that would be Anjum. There'll be Yasir who will be teaching the other units. Both of them are also qualified accountants, essentially with IFA. And Anjum has been with me for 8.5 years, Yasir for about 4 years now. So they are some of the lecturers that you are going to get lectures from. You'll get lectures from, essentially when you start, studying and reading into the units. We've got Shazia. She's the quality manager of the internal IQA. She looks after your assessments from a point of view of assuring that they are meeting the guideline and you're happy with the grades, and the grades being awarded are, meeting the awarding body guidelines. Now, in addition to that, you'll have some of the other people which will also teach and deliver, other parts of the module, but they would be not related to you directly because of the fact that they teach different units and obviously different courses. So in terms of lecturing and in terms of essentially, teaching you the accounting courses, it'll be Reena, Anjum, Yasir, and myself, and that would essentially allow you to, study the course with us. Now, one of the other things which I want to quickly show to you is how to access the YouTube channel. So if you scroll down to our website and you go into the social media icons, click on the YouTube option, and that will take you towards, the YouTube channel. Now, our YouTube channel is very simple to remember and easy to get to. So it's just UK Versity Online, all one word. And essentially what tends to happen is that when you want to go onto our channel, what you would do is basically go onto the website and click on the social icon, and that will essentially take you to the YouTube channel. The reason I would suggest that why we would ask you to go and look at subscribing to the channel for the duration, at least you're there, is because what we do is we upload all our videos and recorded sessions, after the induction, or say, for example, after the lecture is done, onto YouTube. Now, there are a couple of reasons. Some learners find it useful simply because they are able to get access to it without logging into Moodle or clicking a number of buttons to be able to get access. The others look at it from a point of view of getting delivery from different lecturers for the same unit over a point in time. And obviously, every one of us is different, although we will teach you the course content, which is prescribed by the awarding body. But sometimes if you want to look at a lecture from a different lecturer, then in those cases, it will be easier for you to go into and look at some of these sessions. Now, because we teach 166 different courses across 10 or 11 subject areas, what will be important for you is we have got over 10,000 videos. Some of them are in the open domain. But what best would be to look at going onto playlist, and in the playlist, obviously looking at accounting and finance, because that would have generally all the videos related to your course that you're looking at studying with us. So when I go into that playlist, accounting and finance, that would show you all the videos, and they are labeled very accurately from a point of view of what is the awarding body, the level of the course, and what unit is it. So in terms, sometimes when you look at sometimes when you look at finding a unit for your, say, for example, your own unit in the course, then it'll be easily available from some of these lecture sessions. Now, links to these are also available on the Moodle, which I'll show you a bit later. But essentially, as we teach these units, we don't look at teaching the units by recording them through computer-based tutorials. So these lectures are recorded as it is, they're live, and they are quite up to date and current. So you wouldn't be listening into lectures which are, maybe 1 year old, 2 year old, 6 months old. You'll be listening into lectures which are pretty much, something latest, which have been recorded, every 12 to 13 weeks, because we teach this course at least a couple of times in the year. So most of the lectures that you sort out in terms of that we've put out in the open domain would be, newer lectures. You can sort them out by date, by lecturers, and obviously by units. And these are available to you as well as the entire fraternity across the globe. And the idea is also a bit of marketing that we do to be able to get inquiries. And obviously, education, as you know, is a great equalizer, and obviously, or a leveler, as we put it this way. So there are people who are maybe not fortunate to be able to get access or be able to pay, so they can obviously learn from our channel, free of cost as well. So it's a social cause, but at the same time, it is the model of our institution that education empowers lives. So obviously, what we want to do is make accessible education and educational content to vast number of people across the world who have access to the internet. Now, last but not the least, give you a quick example of the chatbot that we have, David Law. And this particular chatbot should allow you to ask any question that comes to your mind, and this will give you a rational, logical answer in out of hours, or sometimes when you're not able to get in touch with us. So can you think of any question that you want to ask? And we'll try it out to see if it works.
Question. I can't think of a question.
Anything which comes to your mind.
How are you? I don't know.
Oh, right, okay. So how are you? So obviously it is a humane part of it, and it'll give you an answer. Thanks for asking. I'm here and ready to help you with any question or information you need. So bits and pieces related to anything that you want to know with regards to UK Versity and the courses we offer, you'd be able to get hold of from here. So who are the, say, for example, I don't know, accounting lecturers? Never asked this question before, but sometimes we get a lot of people coming in and asking and different types of questions. So as you can see, if this has been asked by somebody else, it's already trained. It knows who are the lecturers on, accounting, and these are the people which essentially would provide you, obviously, access to information related to your lectures. So try it out. This is sometimes our learners see it as a fun thing, but obviously it is serious in terms of, the training that we've done, the way we've trained the, AI to be able to help out and obviously give rational and logical answers, as I mentioned. Now, the last bit which I want to show with regards to from what you're going to get access from the website is the login to the LMS, which is Learner Management System. So that is on the top bar itself. And when you click on LMS, it launches a new tab. And this is where you have the access to the teaching and learning management side of things, from the system. Now, I believe you have already been sent logins by Andy, and if you have logged into the system or haven't, then I'll take you through it quickly. Basically, you have to look at typing in your username, which is always going to be in small letters, and then the password, which is generated by the system. If you add that password in, you click on the greater than arrow, you should be able to log into the system. Now, I'm going to log in through Andy's login today because of showing you the system. So I'm logging in as the administrator. But when you log in to the system, you should see a couple of options on your on the menu. So there'll be home, there'll be dashboard, and my courses. When you click on my courses, by default, you will see one course, which is the ATHE Level 3 Diploma in Accounting that you're doing. And let me just quickly check which particular login has he sent that across. So has he sent it to you for this system or the other one? Now, the other thing which I also will share is we obviously use a very advanced version of the CRM software, which is primarily, a software which, allows us to, I won't bring this on screen because the session is being recorded. This software essentially allows us to have a dashboard, and anybody that you speak to within the organization should be able to see and reach you or give you information that you need at a click of a button. So let me just quickly check what system, because we've got 2 or 3 systems. So let me just check quickly in terms of where he has sent these details across to you for. So just give me 1 second. Have you received the logins for the LMS?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Right, okay, give me 1 second. Right, okay. So the logins that we have sent across to you is for lms.ukversity.co.uk. And it's the same system, but obviously we've got different websites because we've got so many courses which are running. So just to break off in terms of the load and obviously balance the number of users who are studying with us. So the system that you have access to is on a website called LMS, which is Learner Management System, the .ukversity.co.uk. So when you click on this, write your username on the top and obviously your password and click on the green button, it will log you into the system. Now, how do you get to your course? One, you're doing an ATHE course, but obviously under the accounting subject area, you're doing the ATHE Level 3 Diploma in Accounting. So when you click on this, you should be able to get access to your course. The other way would be when you're logged in onto the system and you're on the homepage, under my courses, you would see one course, which is what will appear, and that would be the course that you are essentially studying with us. And when you click on this yellow button for that particular course, you'll be taken into that course, and that course will essentially then give you the full access to the teaching and learning material. Now, because I've logged in as the administrator, as you can see, there are loads and loads of courses. So the best way, sometimes we find it easier to find the courses from the tab on the top, which is the menu. You click on the accounting tab, go to the Level 3 Diploma in Accounting. Now, when you're in this particular course, what you're going to be able to see in this system is there is a certain layout in which how the information is organized. So anything in terms of navigation and anything that you would like to do with the system, like amending your profile, changing your password, would all happen from the screen name where your name appears on the top. There's a small downward arrow. When you click on that arrow, you'll be able to go into your profile, your dashboard, and you'll be able to customize some part of the system. So if you want to change your password, you click on Edit Profile, and that will give you the option to change your password. Now, if I go into just very briefly the system for today in terms of and explain what are we looking at from a point of view of discussing and looking at showing you the ins and out of the system. There are bits and pieces that we will go through today, which are going to be related to, just the pre-enrollment part of it, which is the course handbook. There is a Moodle guide, obviously, key contacts of the college, although I've introduced the team virtually to you. And then there will be bits and pieces that I will upload right now, which is things like Harvard referencing, what makes a good assignment, a couple of videos that you can watch to get you started, which will essentially give you some information related to, the course, as well as at a later stage when you decide to do assignments and when you're ready to do them, they would provide additional information for them, things like declaration of originality, and, assignment submission guidelines and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I look at, the way information is organized in the system, what you're going to see is that you're going to have a lot of PDF documents, which are going to be documents related to the course and the course presentation. You'll have PDF documents from the awarding body. You'll also have assignment briefs, which are normally provided as Word documents so that you're able to download the assignment brief and then use it for the purposes of doing your assignment at a later stage. Then in addition to that, you'll also have, documents or types of documents which are going to be recorded sessions of, the unit. Now, we don't teach the whole unit in one go. So unit is broken down into what is called learning outcomes. So if I open one of the documents up, what you're going to see is that each unit has this document, which is called unit specification. Now, we have taken this out from the course handbook, and this is a document which lecturers use to prepare the course material, teach you according to what the awarding body has prescribed. And obviously, it allows us to also understand what is the content that is to be taught when you're looking at a particular unit. So in this case, if I look at Introduction to Accounting Principles, as you can see, this particular unit has learning outcomes and assessment criteria. So learning outcomes are basically overarching goals that we would have to be able to say that this unit is something that you have studied. And it will give you the key parts of what is to be studied in the unit. And then detailing of the learning outcomes typically tends to happen in the assessment criteria, wherein we'll go into specific details of what each of the learning outcome is talking about. Now, these assessment criteria are divided into pass, merit, and distinction. The reason why they have been done like that is because this is a graded qualification. Each unit allows you to achieve a different grade, and overall grading in the qualification will depend on what grades you have achieved in the individual units. Now, the ACs, as we call them in short, are also important because they also allow you to understand that if I'm looking at accumulating points for a particular grade that I want to achieve, then I would be looking at doing those tasks accordingly. So if you attempt only the pass tasks, you're essentially going to be looking at getting only a pass grade in the qualification. So if I just do the pass tasks across all the learning outcomes, that would mean my assignment and my attempt that I need to do will be slightly shorter because there are lesser number of tasks to do. But at the same time, my grade overall is only going to be pass. Now, if I'm looking at achieving merit, then I will do pass and the merit tasks. That would put you into a state wherein you're looking at achieving an overall merit grade. And then if you're looking at achieving the highest grade distinction, then you have to do pretty much all the tasks which will be converted from the assessment criteria in the assignment brief. And that is where your grade would then become, or you'd be able to achieve distinction. Now, the reason why we also have this as the first document is because I can't teach you just anything in the course. I have to teach you what the awarding body is asking us to explain and cover in the topics which are required to be detailed out in the unit that you're studying. So each of these learning outcomes have some indicative content given, and that is what would be covered in the presentations that we are going to discuss and the sessions that we're going to do with you when we teach and deliver the unit. Now, one of the things that you also have to keep in mind is that how many lectures do we do per unit? So if you see in the unit, there are 4 learning outcomes, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That means that you would have 5 lectures for this unit. The 5th lecture is going to discuss the assignment brief in detail. Because what we would want to do is after we have covered the indicative content, given you the theoretical background, the frameworks, the models, and the knowledge of it, what we also want to do is give you some guidance in terms of how you're going to then do the assignment. So every time, every unit that you study, you would look at the first document being unit specification. That will be a document that I will use, my colleagues will use. You would see it as a macro document to give you some detailing about the unit and what you're expected to study. And depending on the number of learning outcomes, there'll be that many sessions plus one, which will be for the assignment discussion session. Now, the second document is always going to be, as I mentioned, an assignment brief. And these documents, which are Word, PowerPoint, Excel, will always download to your local machine. So in some cases, when you click on this document, first thing it'll ask you to do is download the document. And when you download the document, what will happen is it'll come to your local machine, and that would allow you to essentially open this document at your end from a point of view of having it as an assignment brief to attempt. So I've downloaded this particular document right now and I've opened it. As you can see, this is the assignment brief for the first assignment. All assignment briefs have what is called a bit of a scenario for you to understand what is the things that are required to be done, what is it that you assume, and how do you look at the scenario and background and then start looking at doing the tasks. Now, all assignments from ATHE are going to be a combination of two forms of assessment. First is going to be related to what is called, sometimes it will be a PowerPoint presentation and sometimes it's going to be a Word document. The reason why we do this in terms of breaking up is that we don't want you to produce pages and pages of evidence for showing that you've gained knowledge by reading the unit. Well, our idea here is in the assignments, we want to make sure that you gain what you need to produce an output which shows that you have gained practical skills by reading into the unit. And that is why we break it down into various assessments. So most of the documents and assignments that you would see will always have two types of document that you would be required to produce. Sometimes presentation and document are in the same assignment. Sometimes it could be a document only. Sometimes it could be a combination of just presentation alone, because that might cover the theoretical parts of it and allow you also to develop soft skills. Because when I use this qualification and I look at from an office environment point of view, I don't have the, my boss or somebody who's, if somebody's delegated some work to me, they would not ask me to write an assignment. What they'll ask you to do is, can you create a minutes of the meeting? Can you create a handout? Can you write? Can you make a presentation? And those are the practical outputs which you're required to do as accountants, or as when you work with an accounting company or a firm, you'll be required to do these kind of preparation of documents. So in most cases in the accounting side, it is going to be income statements or some sort of statements, cash flows, balance sheet, profit and loss. You'll have, presentations, or at the end of it, when clients submit, and you finalize the accounts, you have different types of, documents, which are mostly going to be spreadsheets. So you will find that in the assignments in this qualification, they would be commensurate to what is expected to happen when you start working and using this qualification in a practical manner. Now, there are going to be tasks which are going to be labeled as, bullet points. And towards the end, what they do is they signpost what are the assessment criteria that you're hitting. The higher order tasks, which are merits and distinctions, are always labeled separately, so that if you're willing to attempt them, if you're looking at getting a higher grade, then at that stage, what you're going to do is attempt those as well, along with the past tasks, which are given normally as bullet points. And that's the same thing you would see across all the tasks which have been set. So this is saying prepare a handout. These are the past tasks, as you can see, 3.123. The merit task is given separately. The distinction task is given separately. And in some cases, you would not have a merit and distinction, because this assignment brief essentially will correspond to the unit specification. And if I show you these side by side for a minute, just to get this into a bit of perspective, what you're going to see is all the assessment criteria that you see are very similar to the tasks and how they are labeled and numbered across in the assignment brief. So if you see in task 1, you have 1.1, 1.2, you have 2 bullet points, 1.1, 1.2. Then you have 2.1, 2.2, which is in the past. As you can see, this is a merit, which is 2M1 here. You see a 2D1, which is their distinction. So they're labeled accordingly. And then when you go to learning outcome 3, that is normally covered in the next task. You have 3.1, 2, and 3. These are 3 bullet points for pass. You have 1 merit. And as you can see, you have 1 distinction, which is 3D1. Now, if I go to the last learning outcome, there are only pass criteria. And in the task 3, as you can see, they'll be labeled as 1, 2, 3, 4 bullet points. And they're exactly the same. And the wordings cannot change, because this is how assessment criteria are converted into tasks. But before they ask you to do anything, they'll give you a bit of a scenario or a background to assume. Now, sometimes it's like saying, I tell my kids, or if I tell one of my kids that, can you do this for me? Sometimes they will come back and ask me, why do I need to do this? What is the outcome of it? So that is where the background and the scenario comes in, to help you understand that this is the context. And with this context in mind, can you go ahead and now do these tasks? So the assessment criteria are always going to be equal to in number for the number of tasks and activities which are set in the assignment brief. And the reason why we ask you to download the assignment brief in Word is because when you start doing your assignment, slightly digressing here, but when you start doing your assignment, what you would do is in the assignment, you're able to cut, copy, and paste a couple of things, and it makes it easier and non-taxing for you to be able to start doing the task. So I know that these are the tasks that I'm going to do, which are past tasks. So I copy them as it is, and I can then keep, creating space and start working on this working document that I have to start doing my assignment. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mhm.
Good stuff. So, and just very briefly closing this part of it, going back to the systems in terms of the layout of the material. So if I go back into Moodle, essentially then after that, you'll have presentations and recorded sessions. So if I look at, assuming I want to do a bit of self-study, and what I want to do with a bit of self-study is I want to look at recorded sessions and I want to start looking into what has been taught by the lecturer. What I would do is click on the session. This session would play, and this would give me a summary of the learning outcome 1. And these sessions, they last between, I would say, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes to live sessions would be about 35 to 45 minutes, like one we are doing today. And these sessions will essentially cover not just the slides, but also the knowledge required in learning outcome to be covered. And depending on sometimes the content, of the session, of the unit, in this case, as you know, LO1 has only 1.1 and 1.2. So it's a very short session. And this is something which Reena is delivering.
To calculate assets, liabilities, or capital.
So as you can see, in some of these sessions, you would probably have, coverage related to the learning outcome and the assessment criteria which are there, which the lecturer would take you through, and they would be available for most of the units. Now, in the presentations, if you have to look at, they will always be labeled as LO1, LO2. And the reason of doing that is to break them up into the way it has been done onto the unit specification by the awarding body. So what we do is we cover first, some bit of discussion, which is done by the lecturer. And then after that, we go into each of the assessment criteria which are required to be, hit, so that you have great amount of knowledge in regards to that particular assessment criteria. And then when you do your assignments, you have very clearly all of them labeled, so you exactly can know what and relate to what is required to be done or what the task is asking you to do. So slight bit of directive study here from a point of view of looking at the presentations. Now, the presentations are quite detailed. If you look at presentations for any of the units and any of the units that you're going to study, they're going to be quite detailed presentations, because what we are looking at doing is covering all the indicative content and the key bits of data which is required for you to get knowledge and skills from that particular learning outcome. Now, all the presentations are generally refreshed if there is a change in the qualification spec which happens, and they would then be updated. And you'd probably see in some presentations we write the word new, and the word new would essentially mean that this is a newer version of the presentation, and the old version would typically be either done away with or removed from the system by grace. So this is the layout that you're generally going to see in all the units that you're going to study. And this is where most of the teaching and learning material would come from on the course itself. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Now, what you see currently is just the presentations, the assignment brief, and the unit spec. But when the lecturing starts, what will also happen is there'll be case studies which will be put on, and there'll be recorded lectures which will come on. There'll be ebooks which will be put on, and they would then be remaining there because they've been taught. And those are the bits that you would need to do additional study on apart from attending the lectures with us. So if I look at as of now, because you're just starting the course, so it's basically just populated with the base information that you need. But if I show you another course, just as an example, in terms of how this population increases, what you would generally see is if you see a course like just example business, you see business environment, which is the first unit being taught. You have unit spec, assignment brief, there's a workbook, there are some books which have been added, which are recommended books that you need to study. There are some online resources being added, and then obviously your presentations, and in some cases handouts as well, which are required, because we cannot sometimes cover everything in the presentation. So in some cases, what we have done is we've created our own handouts, and these handouts would allow you to do filtered study on a particular concept or a particular indicative content which has been given in the unit. So what will happen at some stage when you start getting into the units and the lectures, that this space would start increasing, and it'll have case studies, books, and bits and pieces related to what you need to be able to study, so that everything will come from our system. You would not need to go to Google. We would want you to stay away from Google, simply because of the fact that when you find stuff on Google and bring in cut and paste and bring it into your assignments without paraphrasing or referencing, it'll increase similarity. So the idea here is we would provide you the handouts, the books, the extracts, and essential things that are required for you to be able to study the course with us, wherein you're able to reference and paraphrase things that you're adding to your assignment. Is that okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. So that's the bit on the systems in general, if I put it this way, and that hopefully allows you to understand, that you would be getting most of the teaching and learning material and the team that is essentially, behind the delivery of your course. Is that okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. So that bit we have covered. Now let's look at briefly going through the course overview, the units, and obviously some part of it just to take you through the course handbook as well. So let me just switch you back to the website. Give me 1 second. And what I want to do is switch you back. There you go. So back onto the Moodle platform, and what I want to do is just upload a couple of things here which are missing, and I'll rather do it on the go right now rather than ask Andy to do it, because they would then be useful for us to signpost some of the bits that you would need essentially. So couple of documents that I'm uploading right now, which you obviously you would get access to straight away, and they would essentially be related to bits and pieces that you would maybe refer to at some point in time when you start doing your assignments. So one last document that I want to upload very quickly. Which is the declaration form. There you go. Now, this part of the pre-enrollment section is pretty much complete. Now, what we want to be able to do is look at the course handbook, and I'll signpost some of the bits that you need to know and some of the bits that you want to have handy. So one of the things that I would ask you to look at is a key personnel and role handout that we've created. This is a ready reckoner for you to be able to get in touch with us at UK Versity at any given point in time during the study of your course. So this is one useful handout. The other one that I want to signpost is, should you want to go through in detail about the access on Moodle, this is a particular user guide which has been created by us, which tells you how to log in, how to reset your password, and what are the ways in which the material is organized, what are the key contacts, and anything that I've shown you right now is basically, in terms of the systems demo for the Moodle, is available on this. There is one other presentation which I would ask you to look at a later stage, would be Harvard referencing, because in the UK education system, we have 2 or 3 different types of referencing system. In the ATHE qualifications, you would be looking at Harvard referencing, and referencing is basically giving credit to the authors, publishers, scientists, philosophists, psychologists who have created the material. And what you're looking at doing is, sometimes when you bring work into your assignments, you basically give them credit by referencing and giving them the credit that this is something I'm going to use in my work. So this style of referencing is called the author date style referencing, which means that you write the last name of the author, and then apart from that, you in brackets write the year in which they would have published or created that particular theoretical framework or model. Now, there are various ways to reference things, which could come from books, articles, and journals. They would come from electronic published sources. And when you bring the material into your work, you would be required to, obviously, if you're quoting something like a definition or a framework and you quote it as it is, then you include them in inverted commas, and that is called direct quotes. But when you read something, write it in your own words without altering the meaning of it, then it will be called paraphrasing. So this presentation, along with a video, a short video explaining how Harvard referencing is done, is basically given here for you to read at a later stage. And then there are bits and pieces of documents like Declaration of Originality, which you normally fill in once. And it's a Word version again we provided simply because when you submit your assignment, there's a declaration that you need to submit which says this is my own work. I've not used or colluded with anybody to write my assignments, and you're meeting the plagiarism and similarity or originality guidelines, which are less than 20%. And that would be something that you can put your name, student number, course name, and the assignment number here, and then check all these boxes, sign, and then reuse the document by just changing the name of the unit. So this is something, anything that you reuse and use again and again, we would always provide that as a Word document so that it's easier for you to use it, and you make it once and use it many times. Now, briefly looking at the course overview. Now, this is the course handbook. It's about 35 pages long. I would say a good 17, 18 pages we've already taken out and uploaded in individual units. But what I would suggest is if you do a bit of reading on this, just to familiarize yourself with the awarding body, the qualification, and obviously the units that you're going to study, that will be useful, and it'll hopefully help you build a bit of background on the qualification. Now, the other important part that I want to signpost in this particular book is basically the grading criteria. And the reason I want to do this is because it's a graded qualification and there are a couple of units that you want to cover. So you want to achieve the highest possible grades so that at a later stage, when you do progress to university, or if you go into do further qualifications, then a grading would allow you to get higher UCAS points when you apply to university. So it is important, and obviously for some learners, it might just be a personal choice that I want to do this qualification, but I also want to do it with good grades. And that is one of the reasons I would suggest that you look at the page 9, 10, 11, and 12, which would give you some guidance in terms of the grading criteria. Now, very briefly, if I explain this to you, the grading system is quite clinical. That means I can't say Michelle is my favorite student and I'll give her all distinctions. At the end of the day, the awarding body will look at how the grading is done, how the assignment is submitted, and there's a point-based system which works in the background, which calculates your grade. Now, all the units that you're going to have in the course, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units, all the units are 10 credit each. But when you look at your grades, if you achieve a pass, then you multiply your credit by 3. If you achieve a merit, you multiply by 4. And when you achieve a distinction, you multiply by 5. So what will happen is each of this unit, if you get a pass grade, essentially would mean that in this unit, what will happen is that if I get a pass, then you have 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180 points. And if you have a merit in all the units, assuming you multiply by 4, you have 40, 80, 120, 160, 200, and 240 points. Now, let's look at how this grading works. Depending on what you achieve. So if you achieve 180, that means pass in all the units, your overall grade in the qualification is going to be a pass. If you achieve some units merit, some pass, and some distinction, then is where the calculation starts to happen, how to predict your overall grade. So assuming all the units are the same credits, but assuming 2 units you do with pass, that makes it 60 points. 2 you do with merit, which makes it 80. 80 plus 60 is 140. And say, for example, 2 you do with distinction, and that makes it 50. So that is 100. So 100 plus 80, 180 plus 60 is 240. That means your overall grade will be in the merit criteria. So in order for you to achieve distinction, you'll have to do at least 4 units with distinction, and other 2 could be pass or merit, and that would tip your grade over to the distinction. So if you look at 50 across 50 points across 4 units, that's 200, and you get 1 merit, which is 240, and you get 1 pass, that will be good enough to get a distinction. Because sometimes, as learners, we have to look at being realistic as well, that which units I can achieve the highest grade. Some units tend to be difficult. And in some cases, because there is only 1 reattempt allowed, that would mean that, sometimes you're restricted by achieving a grade or achieving a higher point, and that would affect your grade at the end. So looking at the grading system and the how assessment is done is important, and that is what I would ask you to go through in this particular course handbook. Now, there is an important aspect, as I mentioned earlier, placed on malpractice and use of AI. And what happens is every time you submit an assignment to us, I'm just going to show you one. And what will also happen is that when you get and submit assignments to us, we basically mark these assignments by adding notes or, let's put it this way, commenting on them. And this commenting then allows us to or inform you that this is what you've done correct, this is what you've done right, this is something which has been missing, or this is something which is required to be done. And in such cases, what will happen is that is something that you will get back from us as a record, and it will allow you to also understand what kind of comments we have given. Why do you think that the commenting is saying that you have achieved this task, and why that grade has been achieved? So just to give you an example right now on this, and I will show you a couple of documents again on a full screen so that I can put everything into a bit of a perspective. And that's the last bit that we want to cover in terms of the assignment feedback. So just 1 second, if you bear with me. A couple of things that I want to open up. With you now in a second. There we go. Okay, so I'll be able to open some of these as we go along. So let me just share my full screen. Okay. So that's the last bit which I want to cover, and here we go. Now, when you see my full screen, what you see is a couple of documents open on your side. Now, this is a way how the learner would actually submit an assignment. So what you would do is primarily fill the declaration up, as you can see, filled up here by one of the learners. You write the name of the unit and obviously tick all the boxes, sign electronically. If not, then at least write your name down here. And this is something which will come along with every assignment that you submit. Now, where do you submit your assignments? So let me open that up as well. So submission, how do you submit assignments? You submit assignments on an email address called learnerwork@ukversity.co.uk. Now, this is a monitored mailbox, which means that every time you submit an assignment or a query related to your course, you get this ticket gets logged in our system. You would get a assured response in 2 or 3 working days. And this would also mean you will get an acknowledgement receipt at your end to say that I or my assignment has been received, just like in universities. Now, when you submit assignments, what we do is we look at a couple of things in the assignment when you submit. One, we check for AI content and we check for similarity. Now, how this is checked, we obviously have a software that we use for basically checking similarity, whether it's been written by a human or say, for example, in some cases, it's been written using a software. So this report will basically highlight that, whether this is human or whether this is software. Now, in most cases, what you're going to see is anything less than 20% or up to 20% is acceptable, which will be fine. And if we do find that the report is showing more than 20% probability of written by AI, then you will get a report back. And this report would essentially come to you via email as well. And there are some instructions. So PDF will be emailed to you, and there'll be some instruction in the last content of the PDF, wherein you'll receive an email. You then create a free account with ChatGPT, and then in that it'll show you what are the places wherein it is not being paraphrased or copied blatantly, and they'll be highlighted in yellow. And then you'll paraphrase that on the writing editor and then submit, and we get an acknowledgement email that now that work has been done, it has been redressed, and that would then reduce the similarity or the presence of AI on the document. Now, along with that, we also scan the document for similarity, and similarity would be flagged up in, say, for example, again, a traffic light system. So in some cases you would see, black. In some cases you would see green, wherein the word is the context has been referenced. And in most cases, if it is copied, it will come up as red. And as long as, again, on this report, anything which is less than 20% would be acceptable. And if you're over 20% or over, in some cases, 25%, you would get a copy of this report back for you to visually see and then paraphrase the work and reference it. Now, in addition to that, what will also happen is, this is something which the administrators do in the background, but that does not mean that we'll not mark your assignment. So plagiarism, similarity is one thing, but we still will go ahead and mark your assignment. What will happen is, when you send in your assignment to us, we'll obviously be looking at doing some commenting. And that commenting will identify whether the assignment is a pass, whether the criteria is met. If you haven't met the criteria, then there'll be detailed commenting given here by the lecturer to help you achieve that particular task. So it's not going to be like universities where they tell you, can you go back and revisit and redo this? No, it'll tell you exactly what has to be added, what is to be changed. And when you do that, you resubmit the same document back, because this is a working document, and the same document back to the lecturer, so that we are able to see the comments and we can see what has been changed. And that would allow us to, then pass the assignment or grade the assignment. Now, if in such a situation that happens, what we normally ask the learners to do is highlight that part in yellow. If you've added something to the existing document which has been marked, then you would highlight that in yellow, just like I've done. And that would mean it will be easier for the lecturer to spot that, okay, this was the comment given, this was the bit which was added, and now it meets the criteria, and you have completed and achieved the unit. So this feedback, along with the reports on plagiarism in AI, along with that, this particular front cover sheet would come back to you to say why you achieved this unit, what grade you finally achieved, and that would be your proof and for record keeping that I've completed the unit, and this is the grade that will reflect in your final certification. Okay, this assignment would then be marked by the lecturer and quality checked by the IQA to ensure that this is then final grade that you've got in the unit. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So this helps us cover the bits that were left out in the assessment and the feedback process. Now, in terms of how do you receive your final certification, this is how your final certification looks like. It's a 2-page transcript, which primarily would be the first page, which is your diploma, and the second, which is your units acting as a transcript, which will show the units that you've completed and the grades that you've achieved. So in this case, this learner has recently finished the qualification with us, and obviously has only managed a pass. And as you can see, that is what is reflected in the certification from the awarding body. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Good stuff. So that helps us cover the bits that we wanted to do so in the induction session. And now I would like to ask you if there are any questions that you have that you want me to answer, anything that you think we have not covered that we can, cover here.
Yeah, I did have some questions actually.
Go ahead.
So in terms of there's the recommended time is 12 to 16 weeks for the course. If I wanted to do it in a quicker time, is that possible, or do I have to do it? Is there a minimum that I have to do?
So that's a very good question. There are two answers to it. There's no fixed answer. The first is, when you're doing the course to distance learning, you have the flexibility to be able to pace up in the course that you would want to do at your end. Now, on the flip side of it, the second answer is that there is a minimum timeline in which certifications are allowed. So when we put 12 to 16 weeks, that is the minimum time frame which the awarding body will look at before they will allow certification. And this is to look at the reason why, because these are all 1-year academic qualifications. The minimum requirement from off-call and QA is to say that the student should study this qualification in 26 to 32 weeks, as what most universities do. even if I'm brilliant, I'm Albert Einstein, I would still not be able to complete this qualification earlier than 12 weeks, because that is the minimum time frame it specifies, for the learner to be able to spend on the qualification, and that would add up to what is called the total qualification time, right?
Okay.
There's no way that you can go to a university and say, okay, I know the full first year, I can complete in 2 minutes or 2 months. Can I sit and do all my exams? No, that will not be allowed. So there is a certain system that you have to follow. And what we advertise when we say 12 to 16 weeks is a realistic time for learners to be able to grasp the qualification. Like I showed you the learner earlier, he's finished the qualification in just about 16 weeks. And he only managed a pass. Now, if you spend a bit more time, and obviously if you have background and working experience, sometimes we do see learners coming in and obviously completing it earlier. But what will happen is you'll complete, you'll achieve, we'll keep the work aside till it passes the time limit of 12 weeks as per off-calls guideline.
Okay.
Is that okay? Does that answer your question in detail?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Any other questions?
Oh, there was a mention about a WhatsApp group. I don't think
Yes.
I'm on that yet.
So after today's session, what will happen is Jill will put you into that group, and she will also post the first lecture invites so that you're able to, start joining the sessions with the tutor for the first unit. So that will happen shortly, just after the session. You'll get a welcome message and you'll be added to the group.
Okay.
So is the number that you provided to us initially on the application form is the number that we will use for the WhatsApp group?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So the WhatsApp group is strictly for professional communication, urgent announcements. We don't normally allow learners to share jokes or, comments or, bits and pieces which are happening in their personal domain. It is strictly related to the course. And obviously moderators who are present on the group, if they find anything, something which is not related to our policy, they will basically either delete that comment or, obviously pick that up and then speak to that particular learner. So it's strictly confidential, it's strictly private, and it's strictly professional. So this is something that I want to let you know in terms of, what can and cannot be posted on the group.
Okay.
Now, I know Jill has had a quick bit of discussion with you regarding the days in the session. So what timings and days have you agreed with her on the sessions?
They are, I think was it Monday and Tuesday at 6 p.m.?
Monday and Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah.
And that is at 6 p.m. in the evening.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. And do you have any other availability in terms, because sometimes what we'll do is obviously do the lectures on a date and time that you are able to attend. Because if you ask me honestly, none of my lectures, is happy to do the session and record it when nobody's present on it, because we've got so many lectures already recorded. If it was recordings that you're going to prefer to study with, then we'll be able to send across recordings and upload them on Moodle so that you're able to pre-read and obviously, get on with it. Now, the reason I also mentioned this is there are two ways. Obviously, we are doing blended learning. And unlike other providers, which will be either distance learning or in the classroom, we have an approach wherein we do both. So you're able to see us face-to-face, you're able to talk to us, and obviously take tutorials and live sessions. But there are two approaches that we follow. One is sometimes we have obviously a lot of learners that we have are mature learners. They are over the age of 35, 36. They have family, friends, kids, full-time job, and other aspects to manage. Now, what sometimes they do is they look at choosing an option one, which is they say, I will do the self-study. I have access to the course material. But what I will do is once I've gone through the lectures of Unit 1 or the presentations, I would come back and speak to Jill. And what I would do is request a tutorial to discuss my doubts, my gap areas. And that tutorial is then organized specifically with you, whether it's 5 minutes, 50 minutes, 5 hours, does not matter. But on that day, when that tutorial happens, we will take you through and cover the entire unit so that you're able to then successfully complete the unit and submit the assignment. The other way, sometimes when we look at learners, and this approach, one works on two aspects. One, somebody who's fast tracking it, wants to finish early. And sometimes you look at holidays like the winter break when they come, Easter break when they come, learners in those cases self-study and complete some of the units quicker than what they would normally do when they're working full-time. The second approach tends to be wherein we teach and deliver the units. We send you session invites, and these session invites would typically allow you to join the live sessions with us. And we are teaching you learning outcome by learning outcome. you'd normally complete one unit in about 2 to 2.5 weeks. And that is why we say 6 units across 16 weeks in order to be able to cover that comprehensively. So which approach is it that you're going to look at? Is it going to be an option one, which is self-study and asking for tutorials, or is it going to be option two, which is live lectures and then completing the course as we are teaching it along when we do these live sessions?
I think self-study.
Right, okay, self-study. So that would be a preferred approach, but that is not the only approach you're going to take, and you're happy to do some lectures, or do you want to just look at self-study?
I'm happy to do some lectures, but I think mainly self-study.
Right, okay, that's fine. So what we will do is, I think just to start you out on the course, if it's okay with you, the first unit that we, again, one of the things, sorry, I missed out, was that when I look at the course handbook, these are independent units, the way we want to start, obviously, in terms of teaching and learning, but there are 1 or 2 units that we would suggest that we do beforehand, primarily because those are easier units, purely theoretical, and they would allow you to box that unit off or complete it quite quickly. Now, in the accounting qualification, if I just go into the units page, this particular unit, which is last unit, ethical, social, political, and issues in accounting, is purely a theoretical unit. We normally start the learners off on this unit first. And the reason this is a unit wherein either you go through the presentations or you go through live lectures. It's a simple case of task and answer, question and answer, and you complete this unit. And then what we do is we start with introduction to accounting, go into principles, go into financial accounting, and follow that path through. So if you're happy, then I can ask Jill to schedule the first unit as this unit, which would mean that you are able to cover this off quite quickly and get a flavor in terms of how the option one tends to work, which is basic. Option two tends to work, which is live lectures. Now, if you like that approach and you want to follow it through, then we can obviously schedule sessions for you specifically on the time frames that you provided. But if not, then I can ask my colleague Andy to start uploading recordings and all the other material, say by end of play Friday, so that it's fully populated and you can dive into any unit for the purposes of self-study.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So let me get that group thing going on WhatsApp after this session, and then let us send us the invites to you for the unit, which is the ethical, social, and political issues in accounting. And then we will discuss, or maybe Jill will pick it up with you in terms of what approach you want to take. And you can do a mix and match. There's no hard and fast rule. The whole idea you're doing this flexible learning and online with us is because of the flexibility we provide. So whichever thing will work for you, we'll adjust to that and obviously take you through it so that you're able to complete and achieve the qualification.
Okay, that sounds good.
Brilliant. Any other questions at your end for today?
No questions now.
Good stuff. No worries. So if you think of any, you can always drop us an email. Now, one of the things that I also want to mention is if you need to write an email to anybody at UK Versity, it is the first name followed by this footer, ukversity.co.uk. So if you have to write to Anjum, if you have to write to me, if you have to write to Jill, Amandeep, just the first name, and that would be, the email going across to that particular person to respond. Most of your academic queries, what we do is we follow a ticketing system for academic queries, for assignments, and for any doubts that you have related to, the units in particular, we follow just the one email, which is what all lecturers have access to and coordinators have access to. And that means that even if you write an email at 2 a.m. in the morning, for example, or 6 p.m. in the evening, there will be somebody which will pick it up and respond back to you so that you're not waiting to get a response from us, and it's not holding you back from starting or completing something in your studies. So when it comes to academic queries, assignments, that's the preferred email. But when you need to reach for tutorials, for sessions, in general, for any sort of administrative work, you can write to any of these as well. And in general, because most of us access a lot of emails, so this mailbox is a mailbox which is accessed by most of the administrators at the college, Aman, Jill, Gartha, Jill, and Amrita, and they would be able to respond to you or quicker response to you if the inquiries are directed on this side. So administration inquiries to admin, and anything related to learning and teaching on learner work, and that is what would give you quick responses from us in regards to any queries or questions that you have.
Mhm.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So let me get these two things put in place just after the session. I'll send you a copy of the recording shortly, and then hopefully we'll get to meet up in some of the sessions with you later this week or next week.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank you, Michelle. Welcome on
Thank you,
board.
Michelle.
Thank you. Cheers.